All righty. Okay. Again, hello, my people. Welcome to Age is No Barrier. I'm Bonnie Church, and confession time. I'm getting up there, and I'm definitely closer to 70 than 60 now, like way closer. And though I've been reasonably active all my life, I like solo activities like hiking and kayaking and biking, especially with my girlfriends. I recently took up pickleball at the Alliance Bible Fellowship. So you go team, pickleball team, all of you who are out there. And I find it so challenging, but I'm having such a blast. Okay. So I want to do a shout out to Rick and Donna Dolby, my pickleball coaches. They are such an inspiration. And I'll tell you why they're an inspiration. They started playing pickleball in their early 70s, and they are now in their late 70s. And they're both Rick and Donna are amazing athletes. But nothing delights me more than to see Donna, who is a petite and pretty gray-haired fireball, baffle a 40-something as she slams that wiffle ball past their paddle. And she does it all the time. Okay, and we even have an 88-year-old that's playing pickleball with us. But despite these encouraging role models, it's pretty obvious that a 70-year-old body is just not the same as a 17-year-old body. Would you agree there, ladies?
Absolutely.
As time passes, we grow older, our body changes. And see, these are some of the changes that occur. Gradually, as we age, our bones begin to lose calcium and other minerals, which result in lower bone density, which means we're more prone to fractures and injuries. Right, Amanda? Our muscles retain fewer electrolytes like calcium and water. As a result of this, the muscle mass slowly starts to decrease. And with that, the overall strength of our bodies. The elasticity, and you girls can dispute this if some of these facts you feel like are overrated, but the elasticity of our joints and ligaments decrease with age. And this can affect our range of motion, causing our body to get a little stiffer and maybe making some movement a little bit more difficult. Our heart and lungs, the lungs become less elastic, while the heart muscle mass actually starts to shrink as we age. And this can drop our oxygen levels and affect our endurance levels. And it can take us more time to recover from activity. So tonight, our esteemed panel is going to help us, despite these changes, create strategies to optimize our performance regardless of our age. Are you up to that, ladies? And so we're going to discuss everything from increasing mental as well as physical strength and other things with these three amazing women. But let me tell you who they are. I don't know what your screen looks like, but in my screen, in the left-hand corner here, we have Jody Cash. Okay. She's an integrative health, fitness, and nutrition coach. She's certified in NASM in nutrition. And she is, what is Girls Gone Strong?
It's a female coaching program, female coaching certification.
Okay. She's a women's coaching specialist, certified transformational nutrition coach with a specialty certification in weight loss. She was a collegiate swimmer and runner. She's competed as a runner and a triathlete sprinter and Olympic and half Ironman distances.
Those are the 3 different distances of triathlons that I used to compete in.
Okay. She's coached swimming, spin, CrossFit, and she's also a mindset whisperer. Okay. So she helps us get our head in the game.
Yes.
Almost everybody in town knows Jody Cash because she was also the director of the Broyhill Wellness Center for 21 years. So you probably recognize this beautiful lady. Amanda, we have Amanda Krager, and she's down in the bottom right. She's a licensed physical therapist, and she's served as a physical therapist for 16 years. She specializes in orthopedics, rehab-based Pilates, and lymphedema. She's recently received her certification as a Nutrimetrics health professional. She's been an avid runner since high school, and she prioritizes healthy diet and lifestyle to support her fitness and health goals, as well as the goals of her clients. And then we have Stacy Rhea. She is an active lifestyle performance coach. She's out in Ohio, by the way. We have Jody in Boone. We have Amanda in Yadkinville. Is that close enough, Amanda?
Close enough.
Okay, close enough. And we have Stacy in Ohio. So, we are national here. But Stacy is an active lifestyle performance coach. She's down here in the left-hand corner, bottom left of my screen. She's a competitive age group athlete. She did the Master Track Nationals, the USAT Triathlon, and was the first place winner in the Ohio Senior Games for the 10K. And she's the owner of Rolling with Rhea Endurance Coaching. And let me tell you, just like everybody knows Jody Cash in Boone, everybody knows Stacy, okay? In Ohio and Pittsburgh and beyond. Her reputation precedes her. She's amazing. So I feel so incredibly honored that you, my girlfriends, agreed to be here to answer questions that I have about my own fitness and becoming a better athlete. And now I know there are a few of you who are probably intimidated by that term athlete, but the tips Stacy, Jody, and Amanda are going to share are going to apply to the active senior, if you want to describe yourself that way. I guess I'm more of an active senior, or those of you who would like to become more active. So we're here to serve you. We're here and we're cheering you on, and we want to see more active seniors. Let's get started. Stacy, this first question is for you. I like that the thumbs up going there. Yeah, come on. You really encourage us with hearts and thumbs up. So if something strikes you as helpful, give us a thumbs up or a heart. Okay, Stacy, energy. Maintaining an energy for the duration of our activity is important. And literally, I meet together with my pickleball people and we'll play for 2 to 3 hours at a time. Can you talk to us about fueling our body to help us stay in the game, especially during training or competition?
So there's what dictates how you fuel is the duration and the intensity of what you're doing. Let's say, example, you said you started playing pickleball. The intensity level for you might be different than the next person and the next person. So there's some variables here, but for the most part, with something like that, you want to 1 to 2 hours prior to an event, you want to eat a good solid meal that would include carbohydrates, but you don't need to load or anything like that. It's your typical meal would be fine. If you're out there for a couple hours, generally what I explain to people, you want to bring either like a drink with you, a sports drink. You can bring a protein shake, some type of meal replacement powder that you can sip on while you're out there working out or doing your training or your event. But the meal prior to, you want to make sure it's not greasy, full of fat, or full of fiber. You don't want anything that's going to upset your gut while you're out there doing things and being active. And then afterwards, a good protein, carbohydrate rich meal. I generally go with like a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein. One of the quickest ways to get that in, like I said, if you bring a shake with you, a meal replacement shake that has carbs in it and protein, and you're sipping on it, whatever's remaining, you can finish that. And then after maybe an hour or two later, most people find that they're hungry. I just recommend a normal meal with your macronutrients, your carbs, your protein, and your fats. That's kind of scratching the surface without getting too technical, but I'm happy to get into that and more. And I'm sure Jody and Amanda can add a little bit to that as well.
Okay. Do you all have anything to add to that?
I think just what Stacy touched on with bringing a drink or something to sip on, just making sure that you're hydrated. And that's something you want to focus on during your training all the time anyway. And, sometimes it might, especially in the summer, as it starts to get warm, having an electrolyte drink instead of just straight water could be helpful, and just making sure that you feel hydrated, because that's going to make a big difference, as well as everything Stacy was saying with carbs and protein and everything. Hydration is just as important.
Okay. Would Gatorade be like an electrolyte drink, or is that not the best option?
I'm not a fan of Gatorade myself. Yeah. I think there's a lot of sugar. I like to go with something that's a little in other chemicals that are in it. And that is my biggest, probably steering people away from a Gatorade for that reason. And to Jody's point, when it gets warmer, we need those sports drinks. A lot of people tend to drink more water, but water doesn't replace your sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So that's where the sport drink comes in to play. And there are some good products on the market. I know we can talk about that.
Yeah.
And another thing is, like in the follow-up email, if we don't cover it now, we can actually put some links to some drinks that you think would be better, electrolyte drinks to help hydrate during performance. Okay, Jody, confession time. Okay. As my pickleball teammates could attest, I tend to choke on the serve. And I've heard that choking is not just poor performance. It's a performance that is inferior to what you're capable of doing. You can do better.
Right.
Okay. And it occurs when I feel this pressure to get everything right, and I start thinking too much, and I get this paralysis by analysis. If you have any suggestions on how to prevent choking and also how to maintain focus during play.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, which is what I tell my clients when they're upset if they're not running as fast as they want to, or they're not lifting as heavy as they want to, I ask them, I say, oh my gosh, did you become a professional athlete and someone is paying you to do this and I didn't even know? Like, when did that happen? And they're like, well, no, I'm not a professional athlete. And I'm like, okay, well, then your life doesn't depend on this. You know, you don't have to perform at your absolute best. So you need to enjoy it. And you're doing this because you want to have fun and you want to be more active and you enjoy the community, the group that you're with. And so just kind of take that pressure off the table. We're not professional athletes. And so you don't need to put that kind of stress on yourself. As far as some rituals or some different things like that, one of the most important things is just practice, especially whatever component it is you're nervous about. So if it is your serve in pickleball, even when you're at home, just going through the motion of what does it look like when you serve, visualizing it in your mind. What does it look like if I were to have the perfect serve? What does that look like? Stacy, you might laugh about this. Before I used to do triathlons, every single time before a race, in my dreams, nightmares, I could never find the transition. I couldn't find it. And when I did find it, I didn't have any of my stuff. And so one of the biggest things I did for my triathlon training was laying out all my things and making sure I had all of my stuff. And so you eliminate any of the things that you're really nervous about that, you know, that have you nervous as you go to your competition or even as you're practicing. And so just practicing that. And then as far as rituals or helping you calm yourself, that's really so different for everybody. For some people, it's listening to certain music before they either work out or before they compete. For some people, it's just breathing, taking some deep breaths. For some people, it is a mantra. It might be one of my favorite ones right now is I am strong, I am calm, I am brave. I am strong, I am calm, I am brave. That one, and I'm stronger than I think. I can do this. You've been playing pickleball. You're up to, you said like a level 3 to 3.5.
Well, I don't know if I'm a 3 to 3.5, but my coach today said I would be there if I would have consistent serves.
Right.
So.
Right. So it gives you a goal. It gives you something, you know, to really work towards, and, you know, stretching and just calming your nerves, anything that you would do at home to calm your nerves. If it's taking deep breaths, if it's visualizing where is somewhere that you go that makes you really calm, or who is a person that calms you. Maybe that's who you want to talk to before a competition or before something that you know is going to make you nervous. Anything you do to typically calm your nerves will also work in competition and with sports.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's what was very, very helpful. Especially the first part about not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, you're not a pro, you know?
Right. Right.
You know, I'm not expecting any sponsorships anytime soon.
You just want to have fun.
Yeah,
I actually use imagery quite often. I did it all through PT school. That's what passed anatomy for me was every night I'd lay in bed and literally go through in my mind, just go through every layer that I had dissected earlier in the day and just review it all just in my head, what I could remember. But even like I've done one triathlon, and when I did it the night before, I laid in bed and just went through the whole motions of how it was going to go, how I was going to do the transitions. And but I was successful. I didn't worry about it. It was more of, I was imagining how it went and everything went smoothly.
Right.
So it calmed me. So I went to bed easily, got up ready and energized, ready to go.
I use what I call creative visualization with my clients, where I have them visualize what that success is going to look like and how it's going to feel. And then we focus on that. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets nervous before a competition. That's very normal. And if you don't, that's okay. As Jody said, you know, we don't get paid to do this. So we do want to have some fun with it. And for the athletes that might be a little bit more on the serious side, where they really have a performance goal, kind of what Amanda was talking about, going through things. I have a checklist that I'll do, but I will also lay everything out. And then I go through everything that could potentially, on a triathlon, when you have 3 sports and you're bringing them together, what can go wrong? how would you fix that? And what would you do in that moment while you're in the middle of a race? That way you're prepared for anything that could come up and happen. So it's a little different than if you're on the court versus, dealing with the elements and things on the road and other cyclists and whatnot. But just keeping positive with what you're doing, because you're doing something that's positive for you. It's about you and what you are going to accomplish. It's not about anybody else.
It's beautiful. Very helpful. Now, Amanda, we're going to kind of shift from being confident to fear of injury. Okay. Fear of injury is on the minds of many of us as we age. And you as a physical therapist, you see the effect of these injuries. What steps do you recommend for us to consider to prevent injuries?
I've created a list, and there's several different topics. I won't elaborate more as much, probably all of them right now, but will be in my PDF file. One of the biggest, foremost, is good hydration, flexibility. With flexibility, kind of a dynamic warm up before your activities and a good stretching session after your activities. This helps loosen and lengthen those muscles for injury prevention. Strength training, again, just keeping those muscles around those joints good and strong is going to take some of the pressure off of those joints that may risk injury. Massage is good, just massage or any kind of relaxation. If you're not a big massage person, just trying to get some of that relaxation in. Diet is also important. And then supplementation. I kind of going to touch on two supplements. Your OPC3s, which is a very powerful antioxidant. The biggest thing out of it is the pycnogenol. It is extracted from the pine bark extract from the French maritime tree out of southwest France. Basically, this antioxidant has multiple benefits, because not just joint health, but heart health and mental health as well. But with the research touches base more on the more joint related aspect of it. It helps with, like research has shown, it helps with osteoarthritis patients. Couple of research articles I've listed in my PDF file. It can reduce the signs and like the stiffness and the pain associated with OA up to 56%. It increases your physical function and mobility up to 52%. And as a result, that decreases your need for over-the-counter NSAIDs like your Advils, and so forth, and then your COX-2 inhibitors like Celebrex. And they can reduce that up to 63% based off of those research studies.
So you're talking about specific supplement OPC3 and isotonic, the isotonic
in isotonic form.
OPC3, yes. Okay.
Yes.
So it's that research. Yeah. Impressive.
So, but yeah, and the particular one I'm looking at with the isotonic form, that allows for better absorption, because as you ingest it, it's at the same pH level and osmosis pressure as your own bodily fluids. So your stomach opens up to the small intestine a lot faster when it hits your stomach. It gets into the small intestine for faster absorption. So it doesn't sit there and have the stomach acids break it down before it gets there.
Yeah. I heard it's the closest thing to IVing your nutrients is to take it in an isotonic form. One of my dearest friends, and I promised her I wouldn't use her last name, but her first name is Jennifer, Jody.
Yes, I know.
She's in her early 70s. She bowls, she practices Tai Chi, she plays pickleball, among other things. She competes in the senior games and other events. She did a sprint competition last year. And she said that she had such thigh pain that her family is advising her not to compete in a sprint again. Why was her pain particularly excruciating after a sprint? Is that a warning not to sprint? More broadly, how can the aging athlete prevent that kind of next day or next 2-day agony?
Well, let Stacy go ahead and then I'll jump in.
I think with this particular question, I need to ask you a couple of questions. What type of sprint did she do? What was the distance?
That's a good question. And I don't know that I can necessarily get that answer. So,
so the best way to answer that without that information is generally when that happens, that is somebody that is under-trained for the competition they're going to do. I think if I remember the question, she also bowls or does Tai Chi?
Yes.
So you're going from a lower impact
and pickleball.
in pickleball. So the pickleball has some interval sprints in it, but they're not very long like a sprint. So let's just say her sprint was a 5K. I'm just going to go out on a limb and think that there's a big difference between, 5K can take somebody, depending on their fitness level, age, and what their background is. Let's say that took her 10 or 15 minutes. And that's like a ballpark guess. That's a big difference from going and doing the other thing. So it's a lot of it is conditioning. What type of dynamic warm up did she do? How well is she hydrated? So there's a lot of variables there. And that's where, like, when I coach with clients, we sit down and we talk about all these things so that as we're creating a strategy for them, we know exactly where we're starting and where we want to go and all the steps we need to do in between.
Excellent. Well, I happen to read, and you tell me what that as we age, we lose some fast twitch muscle fibers. And I wondered if that had anything to do with it. But I also heard that our what are the other ones? Our slow twitch muscle fibers, that they actually don't diminish as we age. So we have some endurance.
But I think for our conversation today, that's getting a little bit deeper and more technical than we need to.
Okay.
What I can say, and that might be something that Amanda or maybe Jody has a little bit more of a background on, but what I do know is that as we get older, especially after the age 30, we've got a couple things going on. And one is our bodies don't have the ability to process protein as much. So there might not be enough amino acids in your system. So eating more protein could be a benefit. The type of workouts that are being done to support those movements again. And as we do age, if we're not weightlifting, being active, physically active and moving is good, but it's the exercise and the progressive overload and using the weights, because we want to maintain and build that muscle. And when sarcopenia sets in, while we can't prevent that, we can certainly prolong it. And that's when our bodies start to lose muscle mass. So that's what we want to look at a little bit more versus the muscle fibers right now, especially in an older athlete. I mean, that has its place, but I think for tonight's conversation, I would kind of go in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jody, moving right along with that, muscle loss is that area. I guess sarcopenia,
Right.
Or muscle loss is another area that decreases as we age or increases as we age. What are your top tips to maintain and increase it?
So really two things, and Stacy touched on both of them, is making sure that you're getting sufficient protein in your diet consistently throughout the day. So when you're snacking, when you're having meals, making sure that you're getting that protein consistently so that it's available for your muscles, not only for your workouts, but for recovery and repair. And then also the strength training is so very important at all ages, and especially for women, because women tend to lose their muscle mass a little bit easier and don't tend to do as much heavier type labor, even outside and that type of thing. So the strength training, any type of resistance training with dumbbells, with bands, with machines, obviously making sure that you know that you're doing it properly, having the proper form, whether it's working with a physical therapist like Amanda, if you've had any injuries or any limitations, or working with a trainer so that you know how to set up a program so that you're training your muscle groups properly and you're not going to create other muscle imbalances because you're only training one group because this is the part that you like to do and you don't like to do that. So making sure you have a good, well-rounded plan. And that also helps with balance and bone density as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now, Stacy, you talked with me the other day about VO2 max, and that you told me it decreases with age. Now, what is VO2 max and how do we increase it?
Well, VO2 max is simply your body's ability to use oxygen each time you take in oxygen. So cardiovascular, cardiorespiratory training is what you want to do. And to keep it like in simple terms, we have different heart rate training zones that we want to train in. So a zone 1 and a zone 2 is where we teach our bodies how to utilize, we're working aerobically, we're working with oxygen. And we also want to do interval training where we would be in a higher zone where we're pushing ourselves a little higher. These are things that can increase VO2 max. And really, there's a couple ways to test it. One of the things I do where I work is we do VO2 max testing, where we actually put an oxygen mask on you and we test you. And then the data that we get from that will let us know where your VO2 max is. And we can start to prescribe a program that will help you to increase it. If I'm not mistaken, and I remember my data correctly, for every point you increase that, you decrease your morbidity by 20%, I think it is. So it's pretty significant and very important. The higher that number, the healthier and the fitter you are, but it can also aid in your recovery too.
Okay.
So that's something to look at.
Okay. Very good. Okay, Amanda, flexibility is another thing that decreases as we age. What are your top tips on how to maintain it and increase it?
So staying on top, like I mentioned earlier, definitely when it comes to your activity of choice, having that dynamic warm up, my plan is, my little freebie to you guys is a kind of little 5-minute home exercise of dynamic stretching, things that you can do for a warm up before those activities. And then taking the time to stretch afterward. That's usually the point that everybody's tired, you're hungry, you're ready. Most people want to skip that stretch at the end. It's very common. I'm guilty of it as much as anybody.
We all do.
Yeah. But taking that time to stretch, but even incorporating like yoga or on a rest day, trying to focus on just a stretching session, whether it be yoga or just going through some stretches, are going to be very beneficial. Also, like collagen is another supplement. Again, your collagens are all a little different. So some of them just have type 1, type 2, and 3. But that can also help kind of maintain some of that flexibility in your body as well with that supplementation.
Yeah, I take collagen every day. I do a product called Collagen Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a lot of biotin in it. So,
Yes.
And vitamin C and all the cofactors that help the body to absorb collagen. But what I've learned too is that not all collagen is well absorbed. And the reason I use the collagen 10 is because there's a lot of mixing agents and surfactants put in collagen to make it mix easier. But those very things can actually inhibit your ability to absorb it. I will have a link in in our email. And also when Amanda mentioned the PDF or the bonus, she's going to give us some flexibility, a dynamic pre-workout, which will be in your email. Some of these things, there's so much we're covering, we can't go into a lot of details. So you'll get information on all these things again in your email. Jody, okay.
Yes.
I know you're a master of mindset. I called you mindset whisperer. What do you do to personally keep your life in balance and on track?
So balance is kind of a tricky word. And because a lot of times when people think of balance, they think of every single day needs to be balanced, and that's just not necessarily realistic. And so when you look at balance and you look at staying on track, I think it's really almost about intention and where is your focus for the day, and finding the balance between work and your fitness and your family and whatever other responsibilities you have. I think that is super important. And, looking at different periods or different cycles almost of, where's your focus? Where does your focus need to be? Do you have a family member that needs more help from you right now? And so that's your focus. And maybe some of your own personal things aren't going to take the front seat. Maybe they take the back seat for a little bit, or maybe you're working on a project at work and you need to put that to the side for a little bit and focus on either another project or something else going on in your life. And so balance is kind of ever moving in my mind. And then as far as mindset work, I love mindset work. I've really gotten into this the last couple of years, especially. And one of the most important things that I do for mindset is a gratitude journal. And I do that. A lot of people do theirs in the morning. I do mine every night before I go to bed. And I write 3 things that I am grateful for that have happened within the last 24 hours. So very, very specific, not just I'm grateful for my family and that I'm healthy and that I have a house to live in and I'm warm. 3 very specific things that I'm grateful for. And what I find that has helped me with is I go through my day kind of looking for those things. So instead of looking at what might not be going right, or there's so much negative energy around and there's so much hostility, it seems like. So instead of focusing and letting the negative energy come in, I really go about my day looking for, oh my gosh, that's going in my gratitude journal tonight. Or I will tell people, you're going in my gratitude journal tonight because you just made my day. And it just really helps you keep a little bit more of a positive outlook, I feel like. And Also staying on track. I use my calendar in my phone. I have a to-do list. I like different productivity tools, and listening to podcasts and books, and just anything you ingest, not just your food, but the social media that you ingest, the books that you read, the music that you listen to, all of that goes into your brain and goes into your soul. And so anything that you can do that's going to be uplifting, I think really, really helps your mindset. And just prioritizing movement and nutrition, because that to me is the closest thing you're going to get to a magic pill, to feeling good about yourself, to feeling confident. And it just all goes hand in hand. You can't really pull one out. It's all about putting it all together. And that's why I love the integrative health coaching so much, because you really have to put it all together.
Well, I know 3 things are going to go in my gratitude journal tonight, and that's Jody, Stacy, and Amanda. Do you have anything to add, Stacy?
It was a little difficult for me to hear what she was saying, but I got the gratitude journal, which I have intermittently used and trying to use again. But I have found a couple songs that have some really positive like words in it about how I'm unstoppable, how I'm going to be the best. And I listen to those every morning to get me up and moving. And I think about what my goals are for that day, what I need to focus on, and how I'm going to achieve them. It's like manifesting that positive energy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you want to sing one for us?
No.
Oh, okay.
Volume or lead.
Amanda, anything you want to add to that?
Again, I do support both of them, what they're saying. Like I will a lot of times just listen to podcasts. I like to do a lot of like kind of insight meditation. Like it's an app, and I'll do the ones for like, for motivation or, gratitude and so forth. Those seem to be very helpful. Definitely trying to keep, like, I'll have like in my little private treatment room, I have like little inspirational plaques, and I'm about to add a little bit, like a little collage of just inspirational quotes.
Nice.
In 2019, I co-wrote a book with some amazing athletes, Vince Papale and Dennis Franks. And if you've seen the movie Invincible, you've seen Dennis and you've seen Vince. And Vince Papale got an invitation to try out with head coach Dick Vermeil for the Philadelphia Eagles. And though he never played college ball, he made the team. He became, at age 30, the oldest rookie non-kicker in the history of NFL. He was voted Man of the Year by the Eagles in 1978. And Dennis Franks was his teammate and roommate. And Dennis Franks was the smallest center in the history of the NFL. And together, Vince and Dennis helped break an 11-year losing streak for the Eagles. And they built a foundation that led to a Super Bowl win for the team. It's odd that I had an opportunity to write with these guys, because I know nothing about football. And I wasn't a ghostwriter, I was a co-writer and with them, which was such an honor. And Dennis wanted my name on the cover with them. And I was like, no way, you guys are the superstars. Put my name in the acknowledgments. Sadly, Dennis passed away during the pandemic. And it was a shock to everybody who loved him. And it was a huge loss. I'm going to include in the resources a podcast that he did with a guy named Andrew Petty. Andrew Petty did a podcast with him shortly before his death. And it's particularly poignant because they talked about mortality. They talked about how life is short. So you need to decide what you want to accomplish, and you got to get her done now, because you don't know how many days you have. One of the things that he said is, he said, get in the game. Don't stay on the sidelines, because life passes too quickly. There is a cost for taking courageous measures. People might call you a fool, but there's a greater cost if you linger on the sidelines. Fear can cost you your hopes and dreams. Is there anything you want to add, Miss Jody, Amanda, or Stacy? Jody.
No, just I love what you just said. It's all about, just putting yourself out there, and nothing good happens in your comfort zone. So put yourself out there, and you might find something that you had no idea you could enjoy. And you find a new community of friends while you do it.
Yes. Amanda.
And just to add on to that, when you do get out of your comfort zone, or you go through, even a difficult situation or so forth, when you get out of those comfort zones, it's always a learning experience, and we're always looking to grow.
Miss Stacy?
Yeah, a couple things that come to my mind is that we impose a lot of self-limitations, and everything we want is on the other side of fear. I do believe that we can accomplish anything we set our minds to. Sometimes it's just having the guidance and the support to get you from point A to point B to point C. But yeah, definitely step in the game. It is, living a fit and active life is just an amazing thing that's going to keep you mentally, physically, and emotionally strong.
Thank you, my ladies. And like I said, you're going to be in my gratitude journal. And Stacy, one of these days you're going to sing your favorite song to me. I'm going to hold you to that. Well, everybody.
I'll send you the lyrics.
Okay. Well, anyway, everybody, God bless you. And thank you for joining us tonight. I hope this was helpful and kind of enriched your experience as an aging, but still in the game athlete.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Thank you.